Discover my best friend was dating my ex behind my back. Confrontation led to a huge fight, resulting in the loss of both friendship and love in one night. It's been almost 2 weeks since I found out. We did the tests, and she's mine. My ex sent me a message a couple of weeks before giving birth, telling me about everything. My then girlfriend, now my wife, saw that my ex had sent me a message, deleted it, and then blocked her, apparently without reading it. My ex took that as me not wanting to be involved and raised our daughter all alone. For 5 effing years. My daughter is turning 5 in a month, and I haven't even met her. Every time I think about how much I've missed out on, I just lose it. I know I must focus on what I've gained instead of what I've lost, but damn, it's hard. It took me 2 hours just to write this out. I don't even want to start on what my ex went through alone in the desperation she must have felt to reach out to my mother for help when she hates her almost as much as she hates me. My wife says she's remorseful, that she was just very immature at the time and didn't think it could be that important, so much so that she forgot about it. I've never loved anyone more than my wife. She supported me through so much. I believe she genuinely feels bad and regrets it. She's around 21 weeks pregnant with our first child together. We're currently separated while I deal with everything, but I don't know how we'll move forward after this. Commenter: how did you find out 2 weeks ago? Ops response: my ex asked my mother for some cash for our daughter, and then my mom chewed me out for being a deadbeat. I asked her what she was talking about, and she told me about my ex and how I had blocked her. I mentioned it to my wife, who admitted there was a time when she deleted it from my ex and blocked her. Update 10 days later. Got some messages asking for updates, and since my post got some attention, I thought I should publicly update. Long story short, I met with my ex last week to properly explain myself and discuss the whole what now. It didn't end up being productive and was mostly filled with awkward silence and a few minor arguments. Toward the end, she said that she'd been talking to a lawyer, didn't want me to be involved, and would be seeking full custody of our daughter with no visitation, as well as suing me for back child support and getting me on child support. So that was fun. To be clear, I was always going to provide more than my fair share for any child of mine. I really don't know how any of this works, but I haven't received anything from the court or anything, so it could have just been a threat, but she seemed serious. Regardless, I decided to find myself a lawyer to help me instead of waiting around, and eventually got connected with an old friend's brother, whom I'm meeting tomorrow, which is great. My wife and I are trying to work things out. Due to the lawyer/court situation, we couldn't afford an actual therapist, but my wife's pastor offered to provide marriage counseling for us. We only had 2 sessions before the family drama broke out, and we temporarily put counseling on pause. Basically, the issue about my wife deleting the message leaked to the rest of the family, which led to her receiving uncivil messages from a couple of family members. My lovely older sister also decided to add fuel to the fire by posting about it on her Facebook. My wife has locked herself at home since then and is taking everything quite badly, as even her friends now know and have distanced themselves from her. I'm actually quite worried about it, but at least her mom is there with her, and I try to check on her regularly. It's all just overwhelming. When I'm not thinking about my daughter, I'm thinking about my ex. When I'm not thinking about my ex, I'm thinking about my family drama. When I'm not thinking about that, I'm thinking about my marriage and the pregnancy. And there's still work, so it's been a really terrible week. I'm finding it hard to maintain optimism and excitement for my daughter with all this happening. Just a bad situation all around. This ended up being more of a vent, so sorry about that. I probably won't give another update in the future unless there's good news, so just thanks for the support. Commenter: he admits he was a horrible boyfriend to her and pushed her away. So, when she sent the text telling him about the baby and he didn't respond, it was probably just par for the course with how he had always treated her. She likely wasn't surprised and had no reason to want to involve a guy who treated her that way in her daughter's life. I'm not saying she's blameless, but he sure as hell isn't. And he still hasn't answered the last post questions about whether the wife purposely deleted the text knowing what they said. Did you bother pressing your wife on whether she read the text or not? Ops response: I didn't want to push it too much, but I did sit her down and ask her again. She assured me that she never read it. She only saw that it was from my ex and deleted it based on that. Second update, 3 months later. It's quite a long story, So, the more condensed version is that I've met my daughter, my ex and I handled the custody and support agreement ourselves, still signed off by the court. We're both committed to making this co-parenting thing work, and it's been going well so far. My wife and I are back at home, and both excited about her nearing due date. We've decided to move on. The longer version, the last update ended with my ex threatening to fight me in court. Well, the lawyer I had arranged suggested we try mediation and set that up with her lawyers and a mediator. Overall, the mediation went quite badly and seemed to be more detrimental to us ever cooperating. We only had 2 actual sessions, both of which were filled with unnecessary fighting and no resolution. Funny enough, it was the chaos during mediation that kind of proved to both of us that we weren't interested in fighting each other indefinitely. She reached out late in the evening after the second mediation, asking to meet up the next day. In that meeting, we talked things out and listened to one another. We sorted through some baggage from our relationship and spoke about what had been going on over the past 5 years. It was a long conversation, but totally worth it. We agreed that we'd make it work and put our daughter at the forefront. A meeting was arranged for me to drive over and see my daughter face to face, and I did. At the time, I wasn't properly introduced to her as her father, and she was understandably cagey around this random guy, but it was still great seeing her for the first time. She was Slash's seeing someone to help with my transition into her life, and I've since been properly introduced to her. She started calling me Papa, so things are going stunningly smooth, and she's coping really well with it all. Plus, my ex has mentioned the possibility that if she could find a job or a better job where I am, she'd consider moving so distance wouldn't be too big of a problem, though that's still a big if. For now, I'll just keep driving up to see her until we're acquainted enough to allow her to make the trip to me. The last update on my wife left off with my sister posting about everything and my family fighting with my wife. My sister has since removed the post and apologized to my wife, though it wasn't a sincere apology, but still, it was an apology. The situation is ongoing, but attempts at reconciling my family and wife are going more or less well. My wife temporarily moved to stay with her parents to get away from everything for about a month, but has since moved back home with me as we're expecting the birth of our child in the coming weeks. We're all extremely excited about that, and we've worked through our issues. I'm sure some of you may be disappointed by this, but I 100% believe my wife and trust that she isn't some conniving person. She's still the woman I love, and we're all to blame for the circumstances that led to this situation. All we can do is focus on the future. Big thanks to everyone who's offered their support, well wishes, and advice. I truly appreciate all of it. And that's it. Sign off, a happy dad of almost 2.